Hi, and welcome to my Azure Quick Hits video series. Today we're going to configure DDoS standard, and we're going to use BreakingPoint's test platform to simulate a DDoS attack and watch what happens. So we'll start by enabling DDoS standard and attaching it to a VNet. We'll then configure BreakingPoint to simulate a DDoS attack. We'll then set up a dashboard to monitor the DDoS metrics. And then we're going to look at log analytics to see how Microsoft dynamically adjusts the DDoS mitigation triggers based on traffic patterns. So for our test environment today, we've got two web servers, Insulamea 1 and Insulamea 2, that are behind an application gateway. And so the public IP of the application gateway is what we're going to attack. You can use DDoS standard in front of application gateways, load balancers, public-facing web servers, and third-party NVAs. So log into your Azure portal and type in DDoS in the gray search bar at the top. Select DDoS Protection Plan, and then click on the Add button. Make sure you're in the right subscription. Choose a resource group where you're going to store this protection plan. Fill in the instance name. So in my case, I'm going to call it DDoS Insulamea. Check it's in the right region, and then click Review and Create. Once the validation's occurred, you can click Create. And that's really all you need to do to at least create the plan. Next, I'm going to go to Resource. And we have two ways of doing this. We can either add the protection plan resource, or we can go to Virtual Networks, select the virtual network we want, Insulamea VNet, go down and choose DDoS Protection, click on Enable, choose the DDoS protection plan we just created, and then click on Save. That's it. We've now protected all the public IPs on that network. Now we're going to go over to Azure Monitor, and we're going to set up 4 charts to watch what happens when a DDoS attack occurs. First thing we need to do is choose the resource we're going to monitor. So in this case, it's going to be the public IP address of the application gateway that sits in front of those 2 servers. Select it and then click Apply. Next, we're going to choose the metric we want. And so if you scroll down to the bottom of this list, you're going to see DDoS attack or not, or under DDoS attack or not. And that's a binary. It's really useful for setting alerts, right? It's either on or off. The second chart we're going to create tracks the number of inbound SYN packets required to trigger DDoS mitigation. For the third chart, we're going to use the inbound TCP packets to trigger DDoS mitigation. For the fourth chart, we're going to create one with 3 metrics. The first one is the total inbound bytes captured by the DDoS service. The second one is the inbound bytes dropped by DDoS. And the third one is going to be the inbound bytes forwarded by DDoS. Next, we're going to pin these to a dashboard and then just arrange them so that they're easy to see. And now let's flip over to the BreakingPoint Cloud website. So if you don't have an account, you can go ahead and create one, and they will give you 5 gigs of free data for testing. If you do, just go ahead and log in. The default page shows you the configuration options. Before we do that, let's go up to the top right-hand corner and click on the settings icon and choose Azure Subscriptions. And here you're going to enter your subscription ID. And this just ensures that you're using BreakingPoint Cloud to cause a DDoS attack on the intended subscription and not somebody else accidentally. Close the window and then fill in the IP address of, in our case, the application gateway, the port number we want to attack, the type of attack we're going to use, and then click Start Test. Validating will take a minute or so to complete, and then it'll be queued, and a few seconds later, it'll start running. While that's running, let's flick back to the dashboard we created and make a couple of changes. The first thing is the auto refresh rate. Let's make that every 5 minutes. Next, let's expand the max inbound bytes DDoS chart and then click on it and change the scale from 24 hours to just the last hour. And then don't forget to click on the Save to Dashboard again. Do the same for the other 3 charts. If you look at the chart in the top right-hand corner, you can see it's flipped from 0 to 1, so we know there's an attack taking place. And then in this lower chart, we get some interesting information. The orange line shows us the total number of packets that the DDoS mitigation system has recognized and dropped. And so obviously that number goes up as the DDoS attack progresses. The blue line, the light blue line, shows us the total number of inbound packets. And the purple line shows us the number of packets that are actually recognized as valid and allowed through to the website, which is kind of what we expect, right? Because this website is not a high traffic website, so close to zero is pretty reasonable. The charts in the top left and center, max inbound TCP and max inbound SYN, represent machine learning based thresholds to trigger a DDoS mitigation. These are not configurable at this time. They're based on what Microsoft sees in terms of traffic patterns to your website under normal circumstances. Now let's switch over to log analytics and open up the workspace where we're capturing those logs. First thing we're going to do is open the log analytics workspace and then sort by resource type. Under resource type, you're going to see public IP addresses. And under public IP addresses, you're going to see Azure metrics. Click See on Query Editor, and then change the Azure metrics to a limit of 1,000 records. Click Run, and you're going to see the first 1,000 records. Limit 1,000 means just look at the last 1,000 records that were generated. If you click on the little arrow to the left, you're going to see all the information about the record. So we need to narrow our search a little bit, and in this case we're going to do a summarize by resource. Run that, and that'll give us the various IP addresses. We can now take this and say where resource equals IAM app gateway, PIP. And now we're just going to see the resource records that are related to the Insula Mea app gateway. So let's say you wanted to see when Azure was making adjustments to the DDoS mitigation trigger. Grab the gray bar at the bottom and scroll over until you see a field called metric name. Inside that, you're going to see a record called DDoS triggers SYN packets. Now go back up to the Custo query. We're going to make a couple of changes here. The first thing is the ago. We're going to change this from 24 hours to, I don't know, let's say 10 days. And we'll change the limit on records to 1 million. So it's going to look at the first 1 million records. And then we're going to put a couple of where statements in, where the resource is equal to the app gateway IP and where the metric name is equal to DDoS triggered SYN packets. Okay, click on Run. And it's going to show you here were the 3 levels and the counts they had on them. So what we can do now is actually chart this, and it'll show you a graphical representation of the different levels that Microsoft ML assigned as the threshold to instantiate DDoS mitigation. If we now flip back to the dashboard and change the time frames, you'll see those same thresholds changing in the charts top 1 and 2, in the top left and center there. All right, that's the end of this video. Hope you found it useful. If you have any comments or queries, please leave them below.